I just had the most entitled encounter of my life. This woman, a true Karen, kept walking up to my porch and snatching packages, like it was her personal shopping mall. Her excuse? If it's left outside, it's fair game. She had no idea. I was about to teach her a glowing lesson, literally. But before we get to that, let me start from the beginning. Hey everyone, I'm Michael Prentice, and today, the HOA president stole my package. So I made her glow neon green on camera. It all began with a pair of limited edition sneakers, Cosmic, Comets, deep blue with silver streaks, and just one tiny scuff on the left toe. I took 100 photos before boxing them up for shipment. The empty box went outside for pickup, while the shoes stayed safe inside, or so I thought. Karen Hulan, our HOA president, ran the neighborhood like her own personal dictatorship. Vague rules, real fines, and her teenage son Grant, all smirk and swagger, was her enforcer. A day later, I noticed the box was gone and assumed it had been collected early. 2 days after that, while watering my petunias, a shade Karen probably disapproved of, I saw Grant strutting down the street with his friends, and on his feet were my Cosmic Comets. That tiny scuff mark gave it away. My hands shook, rage burning in my chest. He caught me staring, smirked, lifted his foot like he was showing off, and winked. That little punk knew exactly what he'd done. I realized Karen must have taken them during one of her inspection walks. I'd left my front door open for 10 minutes while hauling mulch. More than enough. Time for her to slip in. I wanted to storm over there, but I knew how that would end, with Karen screeching about harassment and me getting fined for aggressive gardening. My friend Dave's voice echoed in my head. Don't give them an excuse, Mike. So instead, I decided to get smart. I started a logbook, the Hulan file. Every incident, every date, every detail. It felt empowering. But soon, my little notebook filled faster than I could have imagined. After the sneaker incident, I started getting ridiculous HOA violations. $50 for an improperly coiled garden hose. Another $50 for leaving my mailbox flag up too long. It was death by 1,000 fines. When I talked to my neighbors, I learned everyone had stories. Mr. Henderson got fined because his wind chimes created tonal discord, and Mrs. Gable's welcome mat wasn't on the approved color palette. Karen wasn't enforcing rules, she was inventing them. The neighborhood beautification fund was clearly just beautifying Karen's own yard, now featuring a brand new fountain that looked way too expensive. Then came the breaking point. I'd ordered a Lego set for my nephew's birthday, delivered while I was on a call. 10 minutes later, gone. I looked up just in time to see Grant trying to shove a big box into his mom's SUV. I knew it was mine. This time I called the police. They couldn't do much without video proof. But they gave me a report number, case 124. A small win, but it was something. That night I wrote it all down. Karen and Grant thought they were untouchable, but they were getting sloppy. I remembered the officer's words. Without video evidence, there's not much we can do. And that's when it hit me. If they needed proof, I'd get proof. My porch was about to become a trap. I bought 2 tiny hidden cameras, one in the doorframe, one disguised in a birdhouse, giving me a perfect 2-angle view. But just catching them stealing wasn't enough. I needed something undeniable, something unforgettable. That's when I came up with the decoy package idea. I called my neighbor Mitch, a retired engineer with a grudge against Karen. Over a few beers, we built a masterpiece, a spring-loaded glitter bomb. We used biodegradable neon glitter and a skin-safe, green theatrical dye that would stain for days but cause no harm. We even hid a GPS tracker inside the box so I could follow it wherever it went. When it was done, the package looked perfect, like a high-end electronic shipment just begging to be stolen. I set it on my porch in plain view of both cameras. Then I waited. For 2 long days, nothing happened. By the 3rd afternoon, just when I thought maybe Karen had finally learned restraint, her silver SUV pulled up. She got out, clipboard in hand, pretending to inspect lawns. Her eyes locked on the box. She looked around, then casually strolled up my walkway, grabbed the package, and walked off like it was nothing. I had it all in 4K from 2 angles. The GPS showed her heading home. I grabbed my phone, recording from my window just in time to witness what came next. Minutes later, I heard a pop, then a scream so loud it echoed across the street. Out burst Karen, glowing neon green from head to toe, covered in glitter and dye like a radioactive disco ball. Her face was priceless. Shock, fury, humiliation, all rolled into one. She stumbled out onto her porch like a cartoon gone wrong, clawing at her face and only managing to smear that neon green into an even more ghastly uniform horror show. She spun, eyes wild, scanning for the source of the attack until they landed on my house. And when she saw me filming from across the street, she froze, rage and pure hatred written all over her face as she jabbed a trembling green finger in my direction and let out a string of incoherent curses that sounded glorious from where I stood. I saved the footage with a grin. But I knew the dye and glitter alone wouldn't bring her down. They'd wash away. The sparkles would get vacuumed, and she'd spin some tale about being targeted. The GPS tracker, though, was still live, and while she was flailing and scrubbing in her foyer, I watched that little blue dot remain inside her house all afternoon, until at around 9 it started moving, and I followed it, careful, low-key, feeling like a budget PI as it led me out of the tidy suburb and into a gritty industrial stretch of town where it finally stopped at Lock It Up self-storage. From across the street, I watched her drive in, and thanks to the tracker, I could single out a back row of units. Peering through the small gap under one roll-up door, my blood ran cold. It wasn't just my decoy box. The unit was packed floor to ceiling with Amazon, Zappos, Best Buy, and other retailer boxes, a gold mine of stolen deliveries, and a faint shimmer of neon green dust coated several of the packages, like a sparkly, incriminating fingerprint. I filmed the unit number C27, the stacks of boxes, and the public sidewalk to show I hadn't trespassed. Then shone a UV light Uncle Mitch had slipped me and watched the inside light up. The invisible powder we'd added glowed, and a trail of tiny fluorescent specks led from the unit door out toward the driveway, a breadcrumb path straight to Karen. I called the police, updated the Lego case number, and the dispatcher suddenly got interested. I stayed put and waited while officers arrived, and when they did, I handed over my porch footage, the GPS logs, and the storage video. Sergeant Miller raised an eyebrow at the UV powder, and after some calls to a judge, they got a warrant and brought in forensics and a detective because this was no longer a neighborhood spat but evidence of a systematic theft operation. Driving home that night, I felt lighter. The professionals had taken over. But the next day, the drama kept coming. 2 hulking men in cheap black polos emblazoned. Cho security showed up at my door. Muscle. Karen must have hired, and they started with thinly veiled threats about my unauthorized surveillance. Equipment. I kept calm, asked for ID, and when they got aggressive, I pulled out my phone and hit record. Mr. Henderson came out and began recording too, and the sight of a second camera rattled the goons so badly that when the larger of the 2 shoved me against my gate, they froze when Henderson called it assault. The thugs fled to an unmarked sedan and sped away, and Henderson emailed me his clip, more golden evidence for the Hulan file. That shove, captured from 2 angles, proved Karen was cornered and desperate, and it showed our neighborhood was ready to stand up. I spent the next 2 days buried in the HOA bylaws until I found Article 10, Section 4, the recall provision, which laid out the exact process to remove a board member with a majority vote triggered by a petition signed by 25% of homeowners. Suddenly a plan formed. Gather signatures, serve recall notices, and present an airtight case to the community that would make her removal a sure thing. I printed petitions titled plainly, Petition for a Special Meeting to Recall HOA. President Karen Hewland and the current board grabbed my clipboard and started knocking doors. But I didn't lead with glitter bombs or storage units. I started with the shared pain and the petty fines and ridiculous rules, and asked neighbors, like Mrs. Gable and Mr. Henderson, to sign, knowing this fight had already gone from my porch to every driveway on the block. Her eyes went hard as I explained the petition. She fined me because my petunias were aggressively pink. Mrs. Gable spat, and she signed without hesitation, a furious scribble that felt like fuel. It was the same story at every door. Mr. Henderson's tonal discord wind chimes, the young couple fined for their toddler's chalk drawings, a library of petty tyranny that filled my Hulan file. In 3 days, I had signatures from more than half the neighborhood, double the number needed, and people weren't just signing, they were thanking me and telling their stories. I put together a presentation that was part roast, part legal brief, goofy, slides showing the hose and the welcome. Matt with a cash register, cha-ching, for each ridiculous fine. Then the serious stuff, police report numbers, a GPS map from my porch to the storage unit, and the videos, Karen in neon green, the shove on my gate embedded right into the slideshow. When I served official recall notices, I saved Karen for last. She went pale as she took the envelope, green tint still under her fingernails, and hissed, "You have no idea what you've done." I did. I'd set the stage. The clubhouse was packed for opening night. Neighbors shoulder to shoulder, Karen and her cronies at the front, trying to project calm while her hands twitched, with a faint green residue, and I slowly walked them from the laughable fines into the criminal evidence. The glitter bomb clip, the GPS trail, the storage unit footage. The mood flipped from nervous to furious. Grant lunged, was tripped by Mr. Henderson and subdued by neighbors, and I capped the moment by flinging a stack of photocopied HOA ledger pages. Across the room, proof of questionable discretionary payments, then popped a harmless confetti popper for effect. Sirens sliced through the chaos and Sergeant Miller walked in. Cold and professional, Karen was arrested on suspicion of felony theft, possession of stolen property, and conspiracy. Grant was detained as a person of interest. The HOA security thugs were identified and taken into custody. Subpoenas for financial records were coming. The room, which had come to recall votes, became a courtroom of public opinion. We voted by the book to recall Karen and the entire board, then moved to petition the court to place the association under a court-appointed receiver so a neutral could untangle the finances and rewrite the bylaws. Within weeks, a receiver audited the books. Parcel lockers were installed by the clubhouse using reserves, and the stolen goods case, GPS trail, porch video, and neon cameo was airtight. Karen and her hired muscle took pleas. Restitution was ordered. Grant entered juvenile programs, and, in short order, a for sale sign appeared on their lawn like a quiet surrender. Now, when my phone pings Locker 27, I walk over, pop it open, and bring home a box without dread. Slip into my red Cosmic Comets, listen to Mr. Henderson's wind chimes actually in tune, and smile. Those shoes started a revolution. The glitter didn't just stain fabric, it stuck to the truth.